Sir Boris of Johnson. There he is. Look at him, fine figure of a man. Fine figure of a man. Marvellous. Obviously, he's been in the news because he's been ordered to appear in court over claims that he lied, saying the UK gave the EU £350 million a week. There he is in front of his bus, which says instead of giving that £350 million to the EU, we should give it to the NHS instead. Whatever. He's been accused of misconduct in a public office after making the claim in the 2016 referendum campaign. Now, obviously, Boris and his people, they're not too keen on this. A source close to Boris, don't you hate it when they call him that? A source close to Boris. Why don't you just say, look, Boris said. Anyway, a source close to him called the case a politically motivated attempt to reverse Brexit. His lawyers have cut that down a little bit less by saying it's simply a stunt. And I'm sure Jacob Rees-Mogg spoke about it for hours, but nobody listened, just how nobody's bought his new book either. How many did he sell, Graham? 600?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe 700 copies? Who would have thought a book on Victorian life by Jacob Rees-Mogg wouldn't have been a barnstormer? Yeah. Anyway, obviously, us guys, and I do speak for all of us in the room right now, we're not sure even if the outcomes that he's guilty of it's going to make the slightest bit of difference. I highly doubt it'll stop him becoming Prime Minister Boris Johnson. There he is. That's what we're going to be looking at soon, by the way it's all looking. But the truth is that the claims couldn't come at a worse time for the Clown Prince of Westminster. And the minute he's Prince Boris, by the way, guys, Prince. Once he's Prime Minister King, or God Emperor, obviously. I really hope that's someone we know that's still in this building at this time of night. It is.
Oh, thank God for that.
See you later. I'm glad that was a human being. Now, it couldn't have come up at the worst time, really, because, you know, he's going to be used by people running against him and his critics as a stick to beat him with. He was dishonest about it and everything else. Because, as we know, only Boris was dishonest in the entire referendum debate. Now, the interesting thing about this one, what is definitely interesting, is that it isn't like the Crown Prosecution Service or the police or, you know, like some kind of parliamentary watchdog going after him for this. It's a private prosecution, which was launched by a chap called Marcus Ball. He actually crowdfunded £200,000 to fight this case. Now, his lawyers, they lodged an application in February to summons Boris, claiming that whilst an MP and the Mayor of London, he deliberately misled the public during the first campaign and repeated the statement during the general election campaign that followed. Now, the QC representing Marcus Ball, Lewis Power, QC, said Mr. Johnson's conduct had been both irresponsible and dishonest. He also went on to say, democracy demands responsible and honest leadership from those in public office. Okay. It's amazing, isn't it, though? Before we carry on with it, isn't it absolutely amazing that I go on some of these crowdfunding sites and you see people trying to raise money for the kids with cancer and there's like £8 and a teddy bear been sent in over 3 months. But for a completely meaningless private prosecution against the fop with a gob, Boris, £200,000. I remember, if this was an official case being brought against him by the government, this could have up to life in prison. Probably not for what he's done, but it's a severe punishment. But a private prosecution, I'm not sure what you'd get to benefit from that. But let's go back to his QC. Again, remember that he said both irresponsible and dishonest when talking about Boris Johnson. Irresponsible and dishonest. So keep those in mind. Very important. I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing that he was responsible and honest. It's not my purpose here. But I think that's fairly standard behaviour from our ruling classes, isn't it? They're never particularly honest or responsible. And the thing is, there is that proverb, isn't there, about, like throwing stones if you live in a glass house. It's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. But Mr. Ball is all about honesty. He swears that he doesn't want to disrupt Brexit. This is all about honesty and being straight line. Nothing to do with Brexit. Remember that. It's got nothing to do with disrupting Brexit. He's the bigger man. Granted, his social media, it's absolutely packed in support of Remain. Fervently in support of Remain. He even said his campaign was being organised with other Remain campaigners, and it was born from a Facebook group called the Other 48%. But it's not about Brexit. That's just obviously a complete coincidence. Nothing, zip. He's just taking the higher road. Because he's responsible and honest. And it's not about Brexit, despite the fact he's an ardent Remainer. Organised this with other Remainers, is in groups for Remainers where it's being organised. It's not about Brexit. And he's responsible and honest. He claims that since 2010 he's earned his money doing public speaking, predominantly, and teaching. But as far as anyone can tell, he's only given one public talk in the last year. And then he says he works for RT, which is Russia Today, who are that well-known, responsible, honest and non-partisan station, fined by Ofcom for breaching broadcasting standards over the Salisbury business. I mean, I always find it's a badge of integrity, don't you, Graham, when you broadcast for RT?
Oh, yeah.
100%. 100%. It's guaranteed you're completely non-partisan. You just over it. Granted, you also fucking hate Israel, Jews, and love Russia and hate the West, and you kind of bang on about socialism a little bit. But let's gloss over that. We can't get wrapped up in this. It's about responsibility and honesty, because that's important. In fact, Mr. Ball isn't showing that he's doing much of anything. His other companies are dormant, no indication of working. I'm sure he does work. I just couldn't find out what has. He does live in a house worth over £600,000. So it must be worth a few, Bob. He's got a couple of quid squirreled away. Must be bringing it in. So it does beg the question, and this is a good question. Why has he awarded himself a salary of £24,000 out of the campaign funds? Lives in a 600 grand house, says he's been a lawyer, a public speaker. I'll just have that 25 grand there. I've been terribly busy doing this. I've not been able to do anything else. I'll just put that away in my pocket. I've been so busy on Facebook and hiring an expensive QC, I've not had time to do anything. Have you ever hired a really good barrister? Takes you no time at all. And you just give them the fact they go away and do everything. That's why you pay them £5,000 and £10,000. I imagine this guy costs even more. Add on to that Mr. Ball just taking his essential living expenses, because I'm sure that's what they are. I've got no right to claim otherwise. Despite the fact he lives in a £600,000 house, he's taken other people's money and gone, I'll pay myself a wage. That'd be nice. Could be legit. He might have missed out. He might have only done one speaking gig last year because he was busy doing this. So how's he paid the mortgage on the 600 grand house? I don't think 25 grand a year is enough to cover that. I'm no expert. I'm sure they're pretty expensive monthly. Oh, and he changed his name by deed poll, and I don't know why. His real name's Elliot or something like that. That could be it. So, honesty, integrity, transparency, admirable qualities, sadly lacking in both Boris Johnson and Mr. Ball. I don't know why he doesn't run for Parliament. I really don't. He'd fit right the fuck in there, wouldn't he?
He's got that Trudeau vibe about him, doesn't he?
He has. So we got a court case to look forward to. Also with Boris, before we go off the top. Not yet, Alex. Hold on. Don't press the end one yet. There's going to be a dinner date, isn't there? There's going to be a dinner date when Trump comes over here, and those London people do that funny thing with the Trump inflatable, because we don't like fascists in our country, except the African dictators that come over and things like that, and socialists. We like those. But ones that don't actively murder their own population, we don't like them. Because Trump's a terrible man that kills lots of people, compared to Robert Mugabe, who went to the palace. But I digress. Trump's coming over. He's going to go out for dinner, a lovely slap-up meal, with Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage. I wish I could be there. Would that not be the best dinner ever? Just the gammon. Just it would be it would be a palpable sense of gammon. You would walk out of there feeling like a giant after soaking up all that alpha male gammon. Fantastic. I mean, your IQ would be down for a shit, it'd be fucked. But you'd feel king of the world.
The laughter
And there'd be
would
gold everywhere. Trump loves gold.
The laughter would be dead infectious, though, wouldn't it?
Because Trump's a classy guy. Very
Yeah.
understated, low key. Low key. Have you seen his house?
I know,
It's
yeah.
gold. He's got a gold house. He's got a gold toilet. I was going to say it must be a bugger to clean, but I doubt he's ever cleaned a toilet in his life. Wipers! Just use smaller hands when you do it. He's only got little hands.